Good evening and welcome to the Coon Rapids City Council meeting, Coon Rapids City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. If you could all please rise and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Kraskowiak.
Here.
Councilmember Kicker.
Here.
Councilmember Demmer.
Here.
Councilmember Geisler.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Wells.
Here.
Mayor Cook.
Here. Thank you. Full council tonight. Nice. Next item on our agenda would be to adopt this evening's agenda.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Demmer.
move to adopt the agenda, switching the order of items 1 and 2.
Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Geisler. Adopting the agenda, just switching two items around. Our first item and our second item will be reversed. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the agenda is adopted. So with that, our first item this evening then is the swearing in of a new police officer. Chief Wise.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much. As is our tradition, we always like to take time when we hire a new police officer to introduce that person to the community. James has been with us for a while, but his work assignment has changed some, and now's the time for his formal badge pinning as he's completing our field training. And so I'd like to tell you a little bit about our newest officer, James Malkowski. James was born and raised in the Milwaukee area of Wisconsin, where he graduated from Whitnall High School, which is located in Greenfield, a suburb. He attended the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee and earned a BA in business management. While in college, working on his degree, he showed an aptitude for information technology and pursued that career path for a while. Simultaneously, he performed non-sworn law enforcement work with the city of Greenfield, his hometown police department. Eventually, James chose to move to the promised land here in the suburbs of Minneapolis. Though he initially came to continue with his IT career, eventually he felt the pull of law enforcement, and in 2018 came to work with us here in Coon Rapids as a community service officer. Simultaneously, he supplemented his education to meet Minnesota's police officer licensing requirements. And I think I've told you before is that community service officer in Coon Rapids is a tough job, and it's a great crucible so we can see how somebody learns, interacts with the community. It's an important thing to us. On completing his educational requirements and having proven himself to be a hardworking community service officer, we promoted him to a licensed peace officer. James' first day as an officer trainee was in August 2019, some months ago. Since that time, he has been trained and evaluated on a daily basis, pushed to excel at meeting the needs of our community. Our training program is designed to be stressful on purpose. We need to push him because we want to be certain that we've hired the right people. And in James, we believe we have a good officer, which leads us to where we are now. James, tonight you are officially graduating from our field training program. Symbolically, we've removed your trainee badge as you have now earned your permanent badge, which is number 165, a number that's unique to him. This is your badge, symbolizes two things. First, the significant time and investment that your peers have had in you so far in your training and education as you work to become a police officer. And second, and more importantly, we want you to never forget that this badge belongs to the citizens of Coon Rapids, and they're entrusting it to you. You have an important job to do for them, and never forget that. You have become a member of a proud organization of dedicated professionals, and on behalf of that organization, I welcome you to our police department family. Know that I, along with your peers and colleagues, will do everything we can to help you be successful as you move forward in your career. So with that, now is the time of his pinning of his badge, and the honor of pinning him will go to his wife, Allie, which of course makes good sense. So James, I'll have you step to the middle here, and Allie, if you'll follow me. Very good. You wait here, and then now the mayor will administer the oath of office.
I'll admit this is easier knowing neither of us have a team going to the Super Bowl. This would have been a little tougher otherwise, I think. All right. Hi, James. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me, I can hold this. I, James Melkowski,
I, James Malkowski,
do solemnly swear,
do solemnly swear
I never know how long I can go with this, so, that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and discharge faithfully
and discharge faithfully
the duties of a police officer for the city of Coon Rapids,
the duties of a police officer for the city of Coon Rapids,
in the county of Anoka,
in the county of Anoka,
and the state of Minnesota,
in the state of Minnesota,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that was awesome. Between that and the Citizens Award, we have a lot of money in rolling stock out at the curb, I noticed.
Thank you to the taxpayers for the rolling stock.
Thank you, James, congratulations. Item 2 on our agenda this evening is, which is now item 2, is the Citizens Award of Merit. Captain Hawley.
Mayor, Council, I'm here tonight to tell you about 2 citizen rescuers that are joining us tonight. They did a really good thing back in late September. I'd like to read the information about what they did and then call them up here to receive Citizen Awards of Merit. On September 28, 2019, at about 8:40 p.m., officers, firefighters, and paramedics were dispatched to Highway 10 and Foley Boulevard on a 911 report of a grass fire. While en route, a second call came in of a vehicle on fire. Officers arrived to learn that a 64-year-old woman had driven off the ramp and over 100 feet into the ditch and water. The vehicle was so far into the cattails it wasn't visible from the roadway. Prior to the arrival of officers and other rescue personnel, passersby Todd St. Hilaire and his 17-year-old son Gabriel waded into the cattails toward the smoke to find the crash victim still in her vehicle and out of it, trying to accelerate out of the swamp. The two noticed sparks and smoke from under the hood and stepped into high gear to get the victim out of the vehicle and up to the shoulder of the highway. Shortly thereafter, the engine compartment and vehicle burst into flames. If not for the immediate action that Todd and Gabriel took, it is likely the unresponsive victim would have perished in the fire. Todd and Gabriel clearly helped save the life of another person, thereby earning their Citizens Award of Merit. And I would like Todd and Gabriel to step up here, please. Let's give them a round of applause if we could. Do you want to say a few words?
Thank you. I appreciate the recognition. I was talking to another one of the officers before we came up here.
Can you come over here just so that they can pick it up on the cable TV?
Yeah, and I just
Right there on the mic.
asked him that, I can't imagine that this kind of thing doesn't happen very often, that people don't step up when in need. But again, I thank you for the recognition. Didn't really think twice about stopping and helping out, so.
That was awesome.
Thank you, guys.
One last thing before we let you go. I want to quick introduce the first responders, the professionals that were there that night too. Battalion Chief Tim Gilsrud, firefighters Greg Wester, Josh Gorge, Joe Gottwald, Jason Plouffe. Sergeant Kiesling was there. Now he's in a suit and tie. Change roles a little bit. Officer Internikim, Josh Perkla, and Kyle Weinberg, who couldn't be with us tonight. And Also, one last thing, Sergeant Kiesling did reach out to the woman victim in this case. She was unable to make it tonight, but she wanted us to pass along to you that she thinks of you two each and every day, and thanks God you were there to save her. So, thank you.
We'll wait till they get done shaking hands, I guess. Todd and Gabriel, before you sit back down, if you would come up in front of the dais, we'll kind of come behind you, and anybody else that you think should be in the picture, Captain Howley,
Sure, all these folks, maybe you could stand.
all those folks, bring them up here, and let's get together and get a picture behind the dais here. Thank you very much. That is awesome. Thank you. All right. Cheer up for that. Look at all those tall guys. You got the camera coming down from the top. Awesome. Thank you very much. That's not our first story of somebody doing the right thing out on Highway 10 like that. No, that's really tremendous. Thank you very much again. Oh, got a few left. Nice.
Whittling it down.
Well, yeah. All right, next on our agenda is item 3, to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and a second by Kicker to approve the minutes of the January 7th, 2020 meeting. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
One abstention.
And that motion carries. One abstention, Councilmember Demmer. We are on to our consent agenda. We have 3 items on our consent agenda. The first one is to approve the final payment to Minnesota Mechanical Solutions Incorporated, for Project 19-7, 2019 well rehabilitation. There were some change orders for flex connectors, not flux capacitors. Changes for flex connectors and a new pump and column assembly and motor service, and the actual project costs were less than the final contract amount due to quantity adjustments from the original bid. So we're looking to approve change orders and final payment to Minnesota Mechanical Solutions Incorporated in the amount of $121,638.30 for Project 19-7, 2019 well rehabilitation. Next item on our consent agenda is item 5 on this evening's agenda, to approve a joint and cooperative agreement for public safety purchasing. The fire department has received approval to replace the existing cache of self-contained breathing apparatus, air cylinders, prior to the June 2020 cylinder expiration date. The department was made aware of the joint and cooperative agreement by the vendor prior to placing the order. The approval to join the cooperative will save the city approximately $10,000 compared to the original quote. The cooperative currently includes 34 fire departments, mostly from the 7-county metro area, and has been in effect since 2009. There is no cost to join the cooperative, and the city can withdraw at any time with no penalties after a 30-day written notice. The cooperative agreement will be used specifically for the purchase of SCBA equipment at this time, but may lead to further cost savings on turnout gear and other firefighting equipment in the future. So we're looking to approve and authorize joining the joint and cooperative agreement for public safety purchasing. Do they sell washing machines too? Oh, Chief Piper isn't here. Remember how expensive those things were. All right. Item 6, the last item on our consent agenda, is to adopt Resolution 20-25, accepting donations from Vista, a donation from Vista Outdoor And Vista Outdoor has donated 11 minimalist hydration packs. These packs would be utilized by police department personnel to aid in hydration during operations on very warm days. So with this, we would be adopting Resolution 20-25, accepting a donation from Vista Outdoor.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Kicker.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Kicker, second by Demmer to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion or questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Griscoviac.
I do have a question on consent agenda item number 5. It might not be germane to what's happening here because I certainly support joining this cooperative. It's going to save us some money. But my question is, I thought we approved this cylinder purchase in October of 19. Are these different, or should I wait to answer that question in other business? Is it?
No, that's fine.
Mayor and Council,
Mr.
this is
Stemwedel?
the same purchase that you approved a change in the budget for. As you recall, it wasn't an anticipated budget expense. They sort of found out later in the process, and so budget was reappropriated for that purpose, primarily using dollars that were originally budgeted for police and fire radios. If you recall, there was quite a bit of savings in the end, or costs that weren't expended, and so we had you reappropriate some of those dollars toward this. They had not been ordered yet, and as they move forward in attempting to order those, found out that this would be the better way to purchase them, and that's where we are tonight.
That makes sense. A follow-up question then is, in October of 19, we amended the capital equipment fund to account for this. So that didn't get paid for out of 2019 budgeted funds, so is this going to be in the 2020, coming out of 2020 budget?
In those cases, it's, Mayor and Council, it's really coming out, when it's in a capital fund like that, it doesn't necessarily matter the same way in the year of the expense as like it would for a general fund because of the way it's tied to the levy. And so, like with rolling stock, there's a certain amount of money that gets attributed to that fund. Things are purchased out of that fund as you move forward, and it's just kind of a balance that you keep as you move forward. And so we're basically just taking a debit on that balance for this purchase. But now there's a line item in the budget that would show, there was in October, that's what you reappropriate, and it just sits there until you spend it.
Okay, that clarifies. And I know, really not germane, I'm still going to support this, just wanted that clarification.
Yep.
So, thank you.
All right, any other discussion or questions?
You see, even without flux capacitors, we just went back in time.
We didn't work together to get that.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Just not quite fast enough. All right. Item 7 on this evening's agenda is to consider resolution number 20-7, parens 9, awarding a contract for 2020 well rehabilitation programs. Mr. Himmer, anything you want to hit the highlights on, or do you want me to read your discussion points here?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we're looking to do our annual well rehab program. It's wells 11, 14, 17, and booster pump number 3 at the Westwater Treatment Plant. We got good bids this year. You'll see we are under budget, but again, just like the one we just awarded or paid final payment on, we assume the worst of the worst, and we typically come in significantly under budget. So I would make the recommendation to award a contract to municipal builders in the amount of $390,850.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
Councilmember Johnson?
I'll move approval of resolution number 20-7, parens 9, close parens, awarding a contract to Municipal Builders, Inc. in the amount of $390,000, $390,850,000 for the 2020 well rehabilitation program.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Kicker. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 8 on this evening's agenda is to consider award of the contract for Coon Rapids Boulevard improvements, City Project 18-13 rebid. We kind of covered this one pretty well last time, didn't we, when we went out for bid, or what were we discussing? What was it?
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I could briefly.
That'd be awesome, Mr. Hammer. Thank you.
Council, if you recall, this is back from last spring. Wasn't a great bidding environment. We were out there. We received one bid on this project. It's part of the Port River Walk. Public improvements, the city and Anoka County are doing this project. City will be leading it. We did add a few more items since the last time. There was some bridge rehab work over East River Road as well as over the railroad tracks, and some ancillary items that were kind of left over from the Phase 1 work that didn't get completed as part of the grading package and the public improvement. So we added approximately $1 million to the overall cost and came in with almost the same bid as last spring. So slightly under engineer's estimate. SM Henches and Sons has the low bid. They check out very well, and so I would recommend we award a contract for $5,483,944.44 to SM Henches and Sons. I will also let you know that approximately 65% of those costs are in Anoka counties. 35% would be the cities, and that was under the Joint Powers Agreement amendment that we just did last November.
Okay. I believe Anoka County's using their state aid money for that. I read that somewhere. Maybe it was in here.
It's right in there.
Yeah. As far as residents, commuters, the differences they're going to see other than obviously the construction, but once it's all done, there will be no left turn lane from Coon Rapids Boulevard onto Coon Rapids Boulevard Extension. It'll still be right in and right out there. And then Avocet Street will become Zilla Street. So.
Correct. You also see some trees in the boulevard. So there'll be some landscaping, street lighting, new turn lanes, a little bit of widening, new traffic signals. Segment of the Coon Creek Regional Trail will be constructed as part of this as well.
Yeah, nice, nice.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Johnson?
I'll recommend adoption of resolution number 18-13, parens 9, rebid, close parens, awarding a contract to SM Henches and Sons, Inc. in the amount of $5,483,944.44 for the Coon Rapids Boulevard improvements.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Demmer. Discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Griscoviac?
Question for Mr. Hammer. First of all, nice job on getting trees in the boulevard. I know that's not an easy thing to do in Anoka County. I think that looks that's going to look great. The extra work that's being done on the bridge, is that work mostly borne on Anoka County? And is that why the split is a little bit higher on the Anoka County side?
Yes, Councilmember Griscoviac, Council, that is exactly right. They added this to the scope. They were going to do it as part of their program last year. When the bids fell through, they said, we'll just package them all together. So all of the additional costs that were 90%, because there was some still left over from the Riverwalk project, that some of the stormwater elements that didn't quite get wrapped up.
Okay, because a year ago was a 50-50 split, right? So now it's a little bit different?
Correct.
because of
That split went up. There was
Got
roughly
it.
$1 million worth of bridge work they wanted to add.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification. That was it.
Mr. Hammer, do we know how long this project is anticipated to take?
Well, considering the Hanson Boulevard project, I'm not sure I would like to give an answer just yet.
Okay.
However,
that's fine.
However, I will say that it's intended, once the weather breaks, we'll be good to go. The city is leading this project, so we have no one to blame but ourselves. So we would hope to hit the ground running in April if we can, and we should have all the materials pre-ordered for the traffic signal. So I have a hard time anticipating we would go beyond November, but the way this year went, I won't ever say never. One construction season.
That's the plan.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Demmer?
Maybe too late for any input, but one thing I've noticed is that corner, oh gosh, diagonally opposite from Crossroads, in the winter, it's impossible to get down to press the button because the snow piles up on the pavement pad where you would go press the crosswalk button to go across. I have no idea if there's any plans to consider that in the design or how they redo it, but if there's a chance to still figure out a way to have the snow not completely, cover up that pad and make it impossible to get there, that'd be great. It's just a tough one when you're biking or walking to get across that side. So throwing that out there while we're looking to design. Of course, having a bridge over it with a pedestrian bridge would solve the problem entirely, but if we don't have that, I want to throw that one out.
All right, I will look at it. Design's done, though, by the way.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
what the bid is for.
But it might be the landscaping next to it or something.
Sure.
I
Well,
just-
and snow removal.
Right.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. We are now under new business. Consider resolutions ordering preparation of feasibility report and plans for project 20-3 street reconstruction. This is going to be, let's see here,
If you will, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, Mr. Hammer, go ahead.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor,
I'm
members of the
seeing
council.
Mr. Hansen's not here, so I was a little lost, you know.
This is a joint project with the city of Blaine, right up by the Blaine High School, north of Main Street. We're just looking now to start our 429 process as part of this and move forward on the assessment hearing. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have on that.
Perfect, thank you. Anybody have any questions of Mr. Hammer on this one? All right, somebody want to put forward a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Geisler?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 20-3 sub 3, ordering preparation of feasibility report, and adopt resolution 20-3 sub 6, ordering the preparation of plans for project 20-3 as part of the street reconstruction program.
Second.
Motion by Geisler and second by Griscoviac. Councilmember Kicker?
Kicker had the second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Kicker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item 10 is to consider planning case 19-26. Consider a planned unit development amendment for a site plan consisting of a retail building and bank 3211 Northdale Boulevard, Kimley-Horn. Mr., oh, there he is. Mr. Harlicker.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Pull this up here. The applicant's proposing to amend the Menards PUD, excuse me, and what they're proposing to do is to demolish the existing Famous Dave's restaurant, and in its place, put a 7,000 square foot retail building and a 3,800 freestanding bank down in this location here. This is the proposed site plan. At this point, they're looking at a multi-tenant commercial building here with a bank down at this corner. This here is a drive-through ATM. No drive-through lanes are proposed for the bank. Parking, they're proposing 66 spaces, and I think 57 is what's required, so they meet the parking and setback requirements. The dumpster enclosure is located here. This area out front will be their stormwater management area. They're realigning this access here so it better lines up with the McDonald's. Staff is recommending one of the conditions, should council approve this PUD, is have a sidewalk connection from Main Street along this side of the building into the site. There are also two connections along the sidewalk on Northdale. One is here, and the other one is using the existing sidewalk that currently serves the Famous Dave's restaurant. Here's the grading plan. You can see where the stormwater pond is here.
Mr. Mayor?
Staff and
Councilmember Geisler?
engineering have looked at.
Mr. Harlicker?
Can I ask one question about that as we go along, since it's,
Yep.
so it could be relevant? So looking at the connection between the building to the sidewalks, with that elevation change, I thought I read and heard some things about whether that was going to be steps or if it was going to be ADA compliant to be able to get from the that elevation change. I didn't necessarily see that in the motion. Can you tell me where we're at with that one?
Yes, that was, here, city does not allow steps going up because of the ADA compliance. So I'll have to reconfigure this sidewalk here. Down here, they're gonna utilize the existing sidewalk, so that's, fits in with a plan. And they'll tie it in along the back of the building, and it'll wrap around to the front at this location here. So this is the area that's causing the most problems, where this slope is here. Landscaping, they're adding quite a few trees along Main Street and Northdale Boulevard. They exceed what's required by code. They're also putting in a hedge to supplement the landscaping along the streets. They've got screening around the dumpster enclosure, as well as some evergreens to kind of soften it from the common drive aisle coming in. And each of the landscape islands and peninsulas also include ground cover plantings as well as trees. With that, I'll answer any questions. We can go over the building elevations. This is the bank building. This is the side facing Main Street. And, or actually this is the side facing the Menards. This is the side facing north, or the existing parking lot and the building across the way there. This is the side that's facing Main Street, and this is the west elevation facing Northdale. They're carrying the mix of materials around all four sides of this building, and the commercial building will also be similar material. They're using a stone and brick veneer, the hardy plank, cement board siding. We've got an awning over the entrance here, and you can see how it juts out at this location here. On the commercial building, again, this is the front of the building. They've got canvas awnings across the front, and they carry it around the side wherever they've got the windows. This is the south elevation facing the bank building. This is the north elevation facing McDonald's, and this is the side that faces Northdale Boulevard. And again, the Planning Commission did recommend approval of the PUD and the site plan with the conditions outlined in the staff report. Since this is a PUD amendment, council has to make some additional findings. The first one being that any use or modification conforms with the use restrictions of this section in effect at the time the modification request is considered. And the second one is any use or design modifications meet applicable city code standards included in this section, again, in effect at the time the modification request is considered. Planning Commission did feel that the proposed PUD amendment did meet these standards, and recommended their approval based on those findings. There are 8 conditions in the staff report. One of them being, as part of this project, the intersection here is being reconfigured with a signal and some improvements to pedestrian access here. At this point, the details of that agreement are being worked out, but We're working with McDonald's, Menards, the applicant here, and Costco on putting together a package to get that improvements done. And it is a condition of site plan approval that intersection be improved. With that, I'll answer any questions. The applicant is also in the audience tonight if you have any questions of them.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Geisler?
I just have a couple of side questions. So I know that in there it says like a proposed bank, a proposed restaurant, proposed veterinary clinic. And if those of us who've been around remember the other PUD where, hey, let's put this on, and well, if I put that on the PUD plan and they decide that it's not a veterinary clinic or not a restaurant or not a bank, they have to come back for something different. And so just want to make sure that we're clear that those are the things that are going in, or do we not know for sure?
As far as the uses here, one is a proposed restaurant, and then the veterinary clinic and the bank. Maybe I'll let the applicant speak to those as where they are as far as landing tenants for those spaces.
Yeah. Where, you know, for me, you know, I think if we're looking at the site, if they're not solid, I would lean towards saying, let's look at, you know, a proposed restaurant is pretty generic, right? It could be any restaurant. But a veterinary clinic is a pretty specific use. A bank is a pretty specific use that if we would potentially want to use more generic terms for what's on that PUD might make some sense. So unless you want to have them come back and forth and do another site plan every time that they want to change what's on the label of that building. The other question that I would have, and maybe the applicant can answer, my experience from planning, when I'm looking at a restaurant, they tend to really want to brand their buildings. And I want to make sure that we have to be able to say, this is the site plan for that building, and that any tenant coming in needs to understand that they need to comply with that how that building looks, right? That it's not, I don't want to be seeing something come back in and say, oh, well, it's, you know, another kind of restaurant, and their colors are purple and green, and we're going to change all of the colors of the building to purple and green, right? And so those are just a couple of things that I wanted to have a conversation about to make sure before we made that final approval that everybody's on board with expectations.
Yeah, Councilmember Geisler and Mayor and council members. At this point, these are, what's approved tonight would have to be constructed. And this is what we'd be looking at when they did submit their building permit. There is some ability as far as signage, to do something with signage. But it's staff's expectation is that these are the buildings that would be constructed.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Real estate development is so interesting. The other side of the mall, they tore down a bank and put in a restaurant, and now they're tearing down a restaurant and putting in a bank.
Right.
You know.
Mayor?
Councilmember Kraskowiak?
I think I'm in agreement with this. It looks to me like it follows the original intent of the PUD pretty well with the buildings and things like that. I have a question on the reconfiguration of the traffic flow and the intersection that's going to potentially come up there. It doesn't show on the site plan, but is there easements on the edge of that would allow a right turn lane into this facility from Main Street?
Mr. Hemmer to answer that for you.
Councilmember Kraskowiak, members of the council, that will be evaluated as part of the design, but I believe one of the stipulations for the property owner is if we need additional right-of-way there, that they would dedicate that right turn lane.
Okay, that's a condition and, okay. Seems like it would be necessary if it's going to be redone.
And,
Councilmember Geisler?
and Mr. Mayor, I had one other question that I would kind of like to see put in potentially as a condition. When you look at the site plan of the commercial building, there are, you know, service doors out to the back, you know, so you have a fire exit and whatnot. But that means every delivery, everything coming for those businesses is coming in through their front door. And I would want to do something that restrict those deliveries to non-business hours. Because what you don't want is, you know, here's the big Cisco food delivery truck and, blocking all these parking spots while people are trying to get into the restaurant while their deliveries are coming in. It probably would make operational sense that they wouldn't do it during business hours, but it would be nice to try and encourage that.
That seems like that would be a difficult one depending on the kind of restaurant, because it might be a breakfast restaurant, or it might be a lunch restaurant, or a
Well,
dinner restaurant.
As long as you say during non-business hours, it would be tied to whatever business hours the restaurant determines, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm okay letting them figure that out, but.
I have a similar, just because we usually bring it up, and I'm gonna say it's no big deal, because it's their business and they get to decide this, but boy, that's not a lot of parking spots for a restaurant.
Right.
I mean, you guys are in this business. I look at that and I think that's gonna be tough to keep the restaurant people not in the veterinary office clinic parking. So as long as you're cool with it, we'll approve it, but we traditionally bring it up when we're talking about housing. So we always just make sure we're not forgetting to bring it up, but then we always say it's your call. The point that Councilperson Geisler said about, are you absolutely sure you want the word veterinary in the PUD, or do you want a more generic language so that you don't have to come back if the veterinary thing falls through and it's someone else? This would be your time to say that.
Yes.
Although I don't know if it can go back. I mean, we could make that change today, or would it have to go back through planning?
I'm looking at the attorney over there. I think by just maybe labeling the building commercial tenants would be sufficient.
Because I guess I don't really have a strong feeling that it would have to be veterinary and that I'd want you to come back here just to change one word, and the way it's laid out, you would, so.
Mr. Brody, what do you think?
Legal perspective, I don't think it's a significant or material enough change. I mean, it's broadening it out versus narrowing it in. So I don't think that would be an issue that'd have to go back to Planning Commission for reconsideration.
Is there a more generic word that we could put in and be happy with?
I think what you just used would be.
What did I say?
Like a retail?
Commercial tenant.
Commercial tenant,
okay.
or retail, perhaps.
What did you say?
And the applicant, if you want to say something, come up.
And again,
Sitting right at the edge of the seat, I think he has something to say.
Yeah, I just, my point is I don't want to revisit what we've done before with other pre-UDs where they put a name, it was going to be a swim center, and no, well, then that wasn't that, so they had to come back through the whole process and put a different label on the block, on the piece on the diagram. So I'm trying to.
Twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that was even before a building, though.
I know.
Here the buildings.
My name is John Deemer, Vice President of Construction for the applicant for One Corp. We agree, we do not have any signed leases. We're close on a couple signed leases, but I would agree and would prefer, if you're okay with that, with a generic commercial use on there, that would be our preference as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think generic restaurant, commercial use, and then.
Banks are banks.
Banks are banks, it's really the veterinary clinic one that I think would get you in trouble.
Yeah, we would prefer more generic. Like I said, we're close, but until we have the signed lease, then we would appreciate a more generic.
Who's going to propose the language?
Yeah. So I would just recommend a .9 in our recommendations to modify the site plan building designation formerly called proposed veterinary clinic to be commercial retail.
I can go with that. So it's just that one part.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the others are
Does,
already there.
Mr. Brody, does that meet
Commercial retail or commercial tenant?
commercial?
I think commercial/retail would sort of,
Oh, / retail.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
Tenant.
got it.
Just to make absolutely sure, we have all those different designations. Are there any uses part of the PUD is we are supposed to restrict some things. Are there any commercial restrictions we'd want to place based on our normal designations that would allow veterinary but would disallow things we really don't want there? Not knowing what those are.
I know what you're saying there. I'm going to defer then to planning, because I'm guessing I'm looking, that's probably what Grant is doing right now, is going through our list of things that are permitted in general.
L3 or whatever our
Medical
numbering
planning,
was. I remember seeing that whole
medical,
grid.
veterinary,
Yeah,
or
anyway,
health
because there's
related.
general commercial, community commercial, those kinds of things.
Mr. Mayor, if I can
Mr.
just
Fernelius.
maybe ask a question, clarifying question for our planner, Scott Harlicker. So in the regional shopping district, there are a list of permitted retail uses, correct?
That's correct.
So I think if that bundle of uses were acceptable to the council, excuse me, broadly, across the Riverdale Regional Shopping District, I think we would be okay with that on this site.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yep.
And for clarification, that district includes the Menards site over there.
It does.
I think Menards is, I believe it's community commercial. Let me double check here.
I'm just,
Well,
just
we
wondering
could
where
even
that line
include
is.
Commercial/retail consistent with the nearby.
It might have a different, I
Regional.
assume because of the PUD, it might be
Right.
different.
For comparison,
underlying
for
zoning area.
for Gateway, they have that multi-tenant building behind the Holiday. We didn't get into specific uses for that. It was just a commercial multi-tenant building. And I believe that's what's listed on the two unbuilt sites there that have multi-tenant buildings in them also. It's either an office or a commercial building. They didn't get to the level where you're actually naming individual tenants for the spaces within the building.
I mean, our uses are relatively tight. I mean, we're not going to put industrial on that block, and even our industrial isn't very industrial, so I would be comfortable with, that commercial designation on the block just to save a lot of paperwork.
Great.
I was thinking, yeah, outdoor storage.
Worse.
No, that wouldn't count.
No, I know.
There are other ordinance for that.
All right.
All right. So, okay, so commercial/tenant or, okay. Somebody else want to take a run at the rest of this?
Any other,
So much.
other questions or? And probably one last one. So if we're having to do the sidewalk connection to Main Street, the one that had the stairs to make that ADA, just move trees, so don't take any away, just move it to be able to fit the ADA.
Yep.
Would be assumed, so. If people are ready, I can try.
I just want to know what they're going to do to keep the Menards parking lot still smelling like Famous Dave's.
Oh, yeah.
It's like one of my favorite things about going to Menards.
So,
Councilmember Geisler.
in planning case 19-26, I'll recommend approval of the PUD amendment and site plan with the 8 stated conditions, plus our 9th condition to change the label on the veterinary clinic building to be commercial. And do I need to read them all?
No, that's stated.
Okay, as stated. Thank you. Saving my voice.
And in addition, I'd ask that you include the findings
Oh.
as also stated.
Yep, and the 2 findings as also stated, of end use modification conforms to the use restrictions of the section in effect at the time of modification. Request is considered, and any use or design modification meets city code standards, including the section in effect at the time of modification. Request is considered.
Second.
Motion by Geisler, second by Kicker. Did we get enough of those findings in there, Mr. Brody?
I believe so. The only thing I might add is we do have to do a PUD amendment, so we can kind of, I guess, I'm not sure how we can sort of construct that language maybe to make sure it fits with what we're looking for in terms of that commercial space or that space that we're redesignating.
Your Honor.
Okay, Councilmember Demmer.
So I'd just add to try to get to that point that I do very much agree with these findings. I think especially if you notice in number 2 that the proposed amendment continues the general plan of the original PUD by providing a mix of compatible uses which can coexist with each other. We've increased the mix by adding a bank and a commercial area, so that feels like the commercial tenant does meet that as well as the others. And I would especially like to say that by getting a better traffic flow is one of the findings with the lights there, that unquestionably improves the site and has been one of the priorities of several groups, including the council, for a long time. So fully in favor. I think it meets the findings and probably exceeds them because of the traffic.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Himmer?
Part of the discussion on the traffic signal, I just wanted to be clear here, is that there's a contribution by the city for 50% of these costs. So I just wanted to make sure that that was out there and that was still clear. I think they'd like to hear that, as we would as well. So just wanted to point it out.
Yeah. And are we planning on using the Riverdale fund for that? That's kind of, okay.
That's correct. We'll probably be back in about 3 weeks with some additional waivers and agreements and things, putting that package together and getting ready to go bid.
I think we're all pretty pleased with that.
Yep, it'll be exciting to see that whole plan for that. It's coming out of Costco the other night, waiting for the car to make a left. Nice. All right, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. We got all of your findings and things in there. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Was there anything else you wanted to cover? You look like you had something else.
Just real quickly, again, we do development across the country, and I just want to commend city staff. They've been very great to work with, very forthcoming with the traffic issue. So I'd just like to commend city staff. They're one of the best to work with that we've run across in the country, so thank you.
Excellent, great to hear. Thank you. All right, item 11, I figured I'd see Eric come burning in the back door, but consider purchase of a TV production truck. Item 11 on this evening's agenda. Mr. Stemwedel. Sure.
Yes, Mr. Strauss is in Mexico, so he may be watching this portion of the meeting, although I don't think he'll be flying in anytime soon, so
We
I
could
will.
have done one of those Max Headroom things. He could have phoned it in.
He did bring that up, I thought. Not necessary, I'll handle it.
Once a month is enough.
I'll just mention in regard to this truck, it was anticipated in the 2020 budget. It's replacing about a 20-year-old truck that's been in use over that span. It's been running into some different repair and maintenance issues, challenge getting some parts for it, things of that nature, and just general old age. And so it was anticipated to swap it out. The contract that is before council is for a company, Gerling, to produce the chassis and build out the actual box of the truck and sort of the inside, at which point it'll be delivered to the city of Coon Rapids, and we will swap out the equipment from the old existing truck into the new truck. They'll have to buy a few more odds and ends to make it work, but then we'll have a brand-new truck. So we do the technology component. They basically just deliver us the design the way we want it. And that's really it, although I will note one benefit of ordering this truck now is we were offered about a 2% discount on the cost of the truck by placing the order this week, and so that's why it's coming before you now.
All right. Mr. Stemwedel, I assume the disposition of the old truck is the same as the rest of our equipment? It goes to some auction or something?
Correct. We'll have to decide how to sell it. Generally, we offer it up on government bidding contract websites, various sorts, or someone, we have to offer it for public bid, things like that. We can put a price on it if we'd like, but it has to be opened up to the public. But once we get all the equipment out of there, we'll offer it for sale just like anything else.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because they estimated approximately $4,000, and I know inherently we've almost always been fortunately low with
Correct.
that estimate. We've always
Yes.
typically done better than that, so.
Right.
Okay. Council?
Yeah.
Councilmember Demmer?
I was going to start the motion, but I also had a comment.
question.
Yeah, okay. So, for people at home, it seems a little weird to buy a TV truck. But this is actually a thing that I think is really interesting and commend the city staff for having the foresight to do. The way we get these things on TV and then subsequently on YouTube and everything else, and so you can watch at home, is that we get the money from the cable franchise. So some of your cable bill comes to making sure this is on TV, as the number of cable subscribers falls, our ability to get, a lot of cities are going to face a challenge of getting their media out without, going to the general fund. But a number of years ago, it was identified that we had enough production and that there was a niche of sort of these small to mid-sized things that private enterprise wasn't really that interested in doing production on, that we could fill. And so the CTN group has gone around and produced really great content and gotten a new revenue stream that can replace some of the loss due to cable cutting that occurs. So we're in pretty good shape here to be able to keep putting our meetings on TV without going to the general fund. And all we have to do is make sure that we don't lose out, which we would do if we were using 20-year-old technology and some other city realized they could fill in that niche. So it does seem a little strange to have the city buy a cable truck, but it ultimately is a way to make sure we can keep the meetings on the air without it hitting the bottom line. So I think it was a clever use, and I'm glad to keep supporting it. And as near as I can tell, the whole outfit is revenue positive. So it not only doesn't hit the general fund, it actually adds to our revenue. So kudos to everybody on that. So I will be supporting this, and so I will make the motion to authorize the purchase of one new TV truck from Gerling and Associates, Inc. for $193,452.
Second.
Motion by Demmer, second by Kicker. And I would add, this is one of the few things that they don't use the truck for, is this meeting.
True.
But it does, this is such a small portion of what they do around the community.
Right.
The CTN news, the football games, the sporting events, the high school concerts, there's just so many things they cover. You see that truck everywhere. And so we are very fortunate to have that. Discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Jaskoviak?
Yeah, I think we're doing pretty good if we get 22 years out of a vehicle like that, so it's time. I was wondering, though, I think it was last year, maybe the year before, we approved the expenditure for a new AC unit. Was that on this truck? And if so, does that move over to the new chassis?
The mayor and council, the new AC unit was related to the larger truck, which
Okay.
was undersized. I know they did look at trying to reuse the AC unit on this truck, and the design with the cab over chassis in the box, it wouldn't fit, and they thought it was going to be a little undersized for this one too, and so it'll be new AC unit on this one as well. But no, the one that was recently approved was for the larger
Okay.
TV production truck, just last year, I believe.
And this truck comes equipped with that?
It will be
price?
equipped with
Got it.
a new AC unit,
All right.
yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. And we are up to the open mic public comment. Anybody here for open mic this evening? Or not? Maybe. All right, so welcome, if you would give us your name and your address, and then just less than 3 minutes.
I'm Genevieve Meisner. Address is 10041 Olive Street Northwest. So, Mr. Demmer. My Webelow Scout here, he's very interested in adding something that improves our solar energy within the city. And he was wondering how to go about getting a motion in place so that we could require some form of solar added to all new business construction or even residential within the city. That was what he wanted me to bring up, so thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. It was an excellent delivery from that small consultation you had there. All right, we have nobody else here for open mic, so we'll close that portion of the meeting. We don't have any reports on previous open mics, and we're at other business. Not everybody speak at once here. We must have another, I suppose our next concert and dessert series is coming up next month after the next meeting, so. Anything going on at the Ice Center? Anything?
Mayor and council, I'll just
Mr.
mention that
Stemmetal.
there is a meeting in between, but I did have it up from our website that February 9th is Family Fun Day at the Coon Rapids Ice Center. And so there are a number of activities, including cookies and canvas, family activities, outdoor games, and then free public skate on the indoor rink from 5:30 to 7:30. And all that's available right now on the front page of our website, but otherwise you can visit Coon Rapids Ice Center as well.
Excellent. Mr. Anderson had the opportunity to visit a golf simulator business, and I will say that it was a nice operation, but you are heads and tails over them for food.
Yes.
Yeah, so anything going on out at Bunker you'd care to share?
Mayor and Council, there's always something going on at Bunker Hills, many things, in fact, and one of them is our simulator center. We're fortunate in the Twin Cities metro area to have many of these simulator centers, but we believe certainly that we can compete. And we know for sure we have the best food and beverage operation of all of them. So, of course, I'm just a little bit biased on that.
That was actually, I think that was an objective statement, you know, based on some other independent research we've done.
Yes, well, we've turned the corner, so, you know, we look towards the next year, and I think the next outdoor golf season, and this spring-like weather we're going to be having hopefully gets everyone in the spring spirit. Next week, late next week, we start selling memberships and patron cards already, so folks can come on out and visit us and purchase their membership or patron card and talk about the upcoming season. And in the event center, we have the father-daughter dance tickets on sale. That is March 6th, so a ways off, but it has become a very popular event as well at Bunker Hills.
Mr. Anderson, how many simulators do we have out there for folks?
We have 4 simulators, and there are about 65, 70 golf courses on each to choose from, and several practice areas as well. You can hone your entire game.
I just think that's so amazing. You can go out there, it's 5 degrees outside, and see these guys taking their golf clubs out of the trunk of their car and heading to the building, and it's very cool. All right, any other business? Ms. Lensmeyer.
Mr. Mayor. Absentee voting started on Friday, the 17th, here at City Hall for the presidential nomination primary during regular business hours, and then we'll be open one Saturday in February, February 29th. There's more information on our website.
All right. And the actual primary election is like March
3rd.
3rd, thank you. Okay. All right. Mr. Councilmember Wells.
On February 2nd, the Coon Rapids North Star Lions are going to host a free will waffle breakfast at the VFW from 8 to noon. So police and fire will be there for the kids with squad cars and fire trucks. And obviously it's free. If you want to donate, proceeds will go to community events like they always do. But so 8 to noon, and that's kind of the kickoff for Snowflake Days, which a lot of activities I think will be ongoing as we are at our next meeting. So.
What was the date of that again?
February, Super Bowl Sunday, but early in the morning, 8 to noon.
Catch breakfast in the morning.
Okay.
Mayor?
Excellent. Councilmember Griscoviac?
A week from today, here in council chambers, informal open house for 2020 street reconstruction. So have folks come and check out what's happening for 2020 street construction right here, 5 to 7.
And there'll be an open house at Greenhaven Thursday night for the central garbage collection in Anoka, just in case you really want to see pitchforks and shovels and torches. Different town.
Different town, right?
Let's just kind of watch that one from the fringe. All right, any other business to come before council tonight? All right, somebody want to get us out of here?
Move to adjourn. Second.
Motion by Demers, second by Kicker to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.